what we did at Higher Innovations was establish a brand where we could incubate new ideas using AI and having this playground to be able to test and try new things with the tools that were emerging without posing any risk to the core business and the core business's customers. So that's how I've been spending the past couple years is thinking about, well, how can we keep innovating? We look at innovation in a couple of ways. One is mergers and acquisitions. One is what can we build? And that's where playing with AI comes into effect. Or where do we need to partner to reach more of similar customer types and help them solve similar talent challenges. So that's how we look at innovation and growth.
Hi, my name is Demetri Panici, and I'm a content creator, agency owner, and AI enthusiast. You're listening to the AI Agents Podcast, brought to you by Jotform, and featuring our very own CEO and founder, Ida Tank. This is the show where artificial intelligence meets innovation, productivity, and the tools shaping the future of work. Enjoy the show. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the AI Agents Podcast. In this episode, we have Katie Fortunato, the co-founder and EVP of Innovation and Platform Strategy at Higher Innovations. How you doing today, Katie?
Great, Demetri. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thanks for being on the show. Really excited to chat with more with you about Jobstream and everything that you're doing um, in your world. As we kind of lead into this episode, tell us a little bit about what you do and kind of what your first exposure was to working with AI.
So, what I do at Higher Innovations is oversee platform innovation and strategy. And we are a business about 16 years old that has been innovating in the talent and human capital space. So, what that means is we build technologies and products and services that help employers find the talent that they need. And what we like to say is that good companies, in order to grow, need their talent. So we very much are coming from a place of like human centered success in business and organizations. And, you think about, well, if I want to grow my sales, like what do I need to do that? You need to hire more salespeople. So it comes down to talent. And in particular, anyone who's starting up a smaller business or if you're a founder, the talent on your team is essential and it's essential to get right. And it's actually really, really hard. So, in our business practice, we're working with the globe's biggest companies and helping with their recruitment, marketing, advertising efforts. And then we also offer a bunch of different products and services across AI and across, how we can help the talent funnel and the talent pipeline and the people function internally
Yeah,
at companies.
no, that's really interesting, and it kind of intersects with what we're doing here with utilizing AI to get the most out of your current workforce, out of your own time, and kind of scale well and scale lean. So, what is kind of an average day look like for you in your role?
So, an average day in my role. What's amazing is it's different every day, and I love that about it, and it feels a little scrappy, it feels a little bit we have an acronym on my team, flying by the seat of my pants, which is not it doesn't mean that we're disorganized, but we are nimble, we're able to change on the fly, we're able to kind of shift strategy and look at the real market and client feedback that we're getting when we're shaping new products and iterate and test and fail really quickly so that we can try something else that's new. So we work with a lot of data in the day to day, and I usually start my day with looking at things like um, Google Analytics to the to the website because traffic and visibility is really important for any business. Looking at customer sentiment, what are they saying? What did they say yesterday? What did they do yesterday? And then looking at the plan ahead for myself, what's on the calendar, what's on the team's calendar, who are the partners we're meeting with, or what are the big risks or roadblocks that we have. And the day usually starts with a stand up with the engineering team as well for 10 minutes just to block and tackle like what are we going to accomplish by the end of the day. So that's my day. And one of the questions you asked me earlier is also what was my entree into AI? And at Higher Innovations, we have a legacy company. It's called Recruitix, and they came up through the ad tech curve, I'd say. And when it was happening on the consumer side, HR tech and talent tech is usually a couple years behind. Um, which AI is changing the course of that now, but back then it was kind of around LinkedIn was emerging, Indeed was emerging, and what was happening in consumer ad tech was programmatic advertising, video advertising, and this conglomeration of all these different ad tech platforms to create like one platform. So we started that for the jobs market, meaning like if you're DoorDash and you have a constant need to hire drivers, for example, DoorDash and larger companies like that would have someone manage that ad spend. And so working at that company, um, had established workflows and systems from 15 years ago. So the workflows and systems have were established a very long time ago. And through that, we've seen the innovation and evolution of what the tech stack looks like. And now with AI, well, and I should say this, like, as a legacy business, there are certain levels of compliance and standards that we have to meet and when working with the Fortune 500 and large enterprise, and so to innovate in that environment with AI is actually really risky and probably not the best way to go and experiment with some of these emerging tools and products. So all that to say, what we did at Higher Innovations was establish a brand where we could incubate new ideas using AI and having this playground to be able to test and try new things with the tools that were emerging without posing any risk to the core business and the core business's customers. So that's how I've been spending the past couple years is thinking about, well, how can we keep innovating? We look at innovation in a couple of ways. One is mergers and acquisitions. One is what can we build? And that's where playing with AI comes into effect. Or where do we need to partner to create, reach more of similar customer types and help them solve similar talent challenges. So that's how we look at innovation and growth.
Yeah, and what has been, I guess, what is your general approach to kind of solving some of the issues that you find coming up in different workflows and whatnot? And how essentially do you go about finding a process and integrating AI into what you're doing so that it doesn't become as big of a process as it could? What I mean by that is a lot of things are very overwhelming, and then if you just like AI and automated it, it really is kind of marginal to the business. How do you go about doing that? And how, as a legacy business, have you kind of gotten buy-in and whatnot too?
Well, you have to spend money to grow. So the first step was getting the buy-in, but really looking holistically at the company, what would happen in these worst case scenarios if AI came along with something better and it was such a great deal that our clients all left, like, and that's how every business is thinking about it right now. And they're also thinking about what does this future workforce need to look like for the business to continue to sustain and grow? And with that comes, well, what are the skills that we need of anybody who's entering our company? So looking at all of those things comes down to like what was our creating our philosophy? What was our philosophy on AI? How did we want to work with AI? What are our own boundaries? What are our own guardrails? And this is different for every company, by the way, and really comes down to the culture of the enterprise. And in the talent world, we call it the
Sure.
employer brand. I can tell you with, like, our startup, which we've launched is, called Jobstream, and it's an affiliate marketing platform, but we took that idea as part of this incubator model, and with the financial constraints and getting that buy-in, the challenge is how quickly can we build this thing and how quickly can we get it to market? Where we've we've got the historic track record of what is the R&D budget that we've spent on doing things the old way, looking at that essentially P&L and path to market, and then looking at how can we beat that system? Like, how can we do it faster, cheaper, more efficiently, quicker, better, hire fewer people? I hate to say that, but when you're incubating and experimenting, it's easier to move more quickly with a small and nimble team. So Putting innovation in a vacuum for us was a game changer. We basically brought a concept after testing it the good old manual way for a few months, brought it to launch within 3 days using vibe coding technology, and we're able to start, selling and, helping
That's really
people,
cool.
so
Vibe coding tech is awesome. It's some of the my it's one of my favorite type of things I just genuinely use. I mean, I'm using it over a lot of different things, and Claude Code's amazing. A lot of the other third-party tools are amazing, like Lovable and whatnot. So, that was that just kind of your internal team just going about like shifting their resources towards that as engineers? Like, were there engineers on the team that did that, or was it non-engineers that were actually able to vibe code it together?
no, I mean, I'm just thinking about our process is being able to keep the team flexible and with the changing dynamics of where work location, where people are working, remote, offshore, this and that, we like every other company, we had to figure out what worked for us, and I think what's also unique about my role is I'm a very product-minded founder, and I'm very hands-on in shaping that, so the prototypes start with a pen and paper and say, "Well, wouldn't it be great if this and it should look like this, but it should do this," and then putting that concept for me as a non-technical founder too, putting that concept into a prompt, into a prototype that within seconds showed me the thing that was in my head, that was a blueprint that I could give essentially to any engineer. So then it's a matter of like team vibe. And I love the two engineers who I'm working on innovation with now. I love our head of product. And like there's a few irons in the fire at all times because like now we're used to building with each other. So we kind of found our own model,
No, that
if
that
that
is
makes
cool. No,
sense.
yeah, I'd love to hear more about that because I feel like every company's just doing you know, their own intriguing thing. And I mean, like for me personally, it's kind of centralized to me as one person, then another person who's doing a lot of the improvements. And we just kind of get feedback and we like build upon it. But yeah, I'm always curious to hear kind of people's processes because there's always something to glean from everybody's how it works for them might work for you tangentially or directly.
What's your favorite
Oh,
vibe coding tool?
I actually have used Lovable for a while, and I took a break from it because it was had a lot of like recursive error issues. But when 4.5 Opus came out, it kind of solved it. So now what I do is I give the Claude Chrome extension or now Claude Cowork a directive to have something be improved, and then it prompts Lovable nonstop for hours until the directive is complete. So that's my new coding workflow. So if I was like, I wanted to build, for example, a dashboard using our short links software and through the API and whatnot, and I just directed it through a Lovable, and in a couple of hours it was made. And then I was like, it doesn't look that pretty. Could you make it look better? And then like a couple hours later, it did all the CSS nonsense and made it look better. And yeah, and that's kind of my current process.
No, it's good to hear what people are either switching to or discovering because the pace of innovation is so fast and new tools are coming out all the time. I mean, yesterday it was all about Claude, Anthropic, and the non-technical, the coding. I haven't experimented with it myself, but I mean, that's basically giving the capability of an engineer into a non-technical person's hands. So it it's a game changer if you're somebody who looks at product innovation, and if you are hearing from your customers, like, and their problems are changing, you can figure out really quickly what it is you need to build to help them solve their problems. Um, so yeah, that's cool. We have an internal love affair between Replit and Lovable ourselves.
Yeah, like, and I would just say, I'm not sure if this has been an approach for any of the stuff you're doing, but like even something as basic as like time tracking internally, like you can spend $100 on like a lovable thing you put together, and if you're already spending, I don't know what it is, say you do time tracking internally, I don't know, but some people require it for certain reasons. You could put something
Mhm.
together that even has an API connection, just spending $100 on a lovable app, and if you have 5 people on your team and it's costing you, let's say, $20 a person or $10 a person, then you're actually saving money in a month by just making it yourself, which is pretty crazy. Because a lot of the functionality of that stuff is pretty rudimentary, and it only is needed en masse and at scale, and that's why they ended up having to charge you because they're hosting so much. But if it's only for your own team, it's not going to cause any crashes because you have 10, 20 people using the thing. So it's an interesting thing.
Anecdotally, before we met today, I was on a call and it was a product discovery call with a 3-time founder. Her name is Sophia. She had her company's called Trust Fund VC, and she was, the founder of Girl Boss, like, 10 years ago or so, maybe around then. But we were talking about that final question of because anyone can have a great idea, anybody can have a solution to a problem. It's that intersection of where there's commercial viability and what is someone willing to pay for to put on the line and say, like, "Yeah, it's worth investing in this technology." And she and I were debating that, and I said, "What's happening right now with AI and all of the new features is a real tech stack consolidation because AI is making it so much easier for example, like, here's how we consolidated our tech stack. We no longer needed Zoom, Figma, and Loom because they all do those 3 things. They're not all perfect at those 3 things, but for our basic needs, why would we need 3 subscriptions when we can still, like, workshop work collaboratively and asynchronously? Zoom, their capabilities completely, transformed, and, so I think that's happening anyways, and as somebody who's a buyer of technology and software, I wait to buy as long as I can because of that, because I see the evolution and the new features, and I mean, look at what Google's doing, you don't have to ever leave the Google platform. So, yeah, so I mean, I love to debate this because when innovation's on the line, the most important thing beyond the great idea is do you have the customer?
True. Yeah, that is true. And I mean, even with Google and what they're doing, I don't know if you saw, I don't really use ChatGPT anymore, and I kind of was predicting they were going to die, or like they're like the least, let's say, innovative on the group of new tools that everyone's aware of. Like I think they lost the Apple contract because Google just was announced that they were going to be the one to put together Siri, the updated Siri, which was supposed to be ChatGPT. I'm pretty sure OpenAI was supposed to have that contract, and that was like the announcement 2 years ago. And if anyone recalls, it's been 2 years, and your Siri still stinks. So I've been making yeah, no, I've been
Dimitri's
paying
tracking.
attention. The S lady is on the chopping block for me, and all the Apple Home stuff I have just hasn't been upgraded with anything new. And yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, I agree. It is about whether you have the customer and whatnot. And with what you are doing at Jobstream, just want to kind of talk about Jobstream a little bit as well. Um, it's interesting to me that you have so many different aspects of what you're doing with like the larger company and then these other smaller ones. How do you kind of go about? You just mentioned whether there is a customer. How do you kind of go about determining that? And has AI actually helped you determine that in a different manner than maybe previously, right? As the research components or the projections kind of modeling changed?
So a lot to unpack in that. It all starts with this idea of flourishing based off of our core clients and customers problem, and for us, it's been large enterprise, it's been talent acquisition. And so we were thinking, well, how like, that is such a premium white glove product. How can we help? Because all companies have a talent issue, right? How can we help more of the mid-market? How do we help some of these newer companies that are getting new funding, and then they have to go and hire 20 people? Hiring is so painful, and unless you have the tech stack and the systems set up, it's really hard to do it manually, and as a founder, your time is precious and certainly more high value when you're in the room with that person versus prospecting. So there are systems and ways that we can take our industry depth and knowledge and expertise and bring into a more nimble environment and help translate how we can solve the problem for a smaller company with different budgets. So that was how we were thinking about like what how do we get to the next point? Do we have the customer? I'd say the other unique thing about our situation is the underpinning of all of the data and the historical data of the labor market, the job market, and we have what is called a talent market index, which it I call it the stock market for, ad spend in jobs, and at any given time, there's a cycle like every other industry. For example, like ours is, during the holidays, retail, and all the companies and Amazon and any warehousing companies, they're staffing up because they've got extra deliveries that they need to make. Consumer spending is at its peak for the year, and so the staffing plan has to match that consumer volume. So we anticipate that in our business, but understanding these cycles and how our employers' budgets are ebbing and flowing gives us some flexibility in how we're going to market with new products and how we're thinking about where in the pain points, like, do we want to enter the market with new products to help them with this problem so that it's top of mind? For example, like Jobstream's little coming out party this year is we've mainly been in stealth, and it's because launching in Q4 in the human capital space is a silly idea. It's too noisy. Brands have real goals and they have to deliver against them, and they only have 3 months to do it. And that's when the product was ready. And since then, we just said, let's refine. Let's just test and learn and fail. And like, so what if we lose a few clients at first? Like, that's part of the process, and you learn from that. You learn why it didn't work. So we took our time to test and iterate. Launching in Q1, Q2 makes sense because for companies, their planning cycles reset, their budgets reset. When we talk about the intersection of intent and commercial viability, that's what we're talking about. Because it's not time at the end of the season. And actually, it's like some companies, they've got to spend their budget or they lose it. But in our case, we're trying to be top of mind by the time like those decisions need to be made, by the time any kind of new product, technical integrations, like there's got to be time to plan. So, um, we were strategic and knowing the cycles of our industry, like when to go to
Yeah.
market.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. And I guess I got a couple other questions just in general. We've kind of talked about how we think or how about you approach things. Speaking of hiring and whatnot, and I'm curious, how do you think that the market is going to change this upcoming year? I know that there's been a lot of speculation for a while. How do you think the hiring market is going to change in this next year with considering I mean, insane amount of improvement in AI? Like I said, Claude Cowork came out yesterday. I don't even need to organize my computer anymore. I can say clean up this dang downloads folder, and it will do it. So, how do you think this is going to change?
Dimitri, your audience is already they're going in the right direction because they're already thinking about AI. And I'd say my personal prediction is you need to automate yourself before AI automates you. And with that, does that mean AI is taking our jobs? Not necessarily. Jobs are going to look different. We know that already. The criteria is different even when we're hiring now, and not every job is totally AI native. But if you are one who is not figuring out how to use I think you will lose your job to someone who knows how to use AI in your role. Um, the other part of your question, how much time do you have? Because the job market is changing so rapidly. There are a few constants, however. We know healthcare has had sustained need and demand for finding skilled workers, met by a shortage of talent, and there are so many reasons for why that is. But I think if anyone's looking for job security, go the healthcare route. Long term, we all need healthcare. And I'm very passionate about figuring this out because I'm like, who's going to take care of me and when we're older if we can't continue to fill a pipeline of talent of caregivers and nurses and doctors and other essential workers, all the support that goes around that. So, I think healthcare is going to be a sustained market. What we're seeing we're seeing AI engineers also, it's an increase in jobs. LinkedIn just came out with their top jobs of the year, and top growth, and that is the job description. But what LinkedIn's data doesn't tell the story of is, and LinkedIn's platform and audience is a desk worker, somebody who knows that they need to be networking with other professionals who are also found on LinkedIn. I can't say that that report paints the reality of the majority of people who are an essential worker. They're police, they're first responders, they are construction workers, they are engineers, they're electrical engineers, they're manufacturing and mining and so on and so on and so on, are not on LinkedIn. So that side of the job market doesn't nearly get enough air, and we won't even get into farming roles because that's a whole nother issue with what's happening right now in the political landscape, but all of these things are impacting this the the work
Yeah, you
ecosystem.
know, I think that that's fair because like the majority of people would probably just when I say jobs, they think knowledge work. Right. I don't think there's much of
Yes.
a different thought usually, especially with like the audience I have. So I appreciate you for bringing that up because I think there are other aspects to it, and you know there are other industries where people are needing to work. I think since 2020, I feel like there's been a lack of nurses. There's been a lack of a lot of healthcare professionals. I've actually had a couple of decently interesting, or not decently interesting, very interesting interviews about the role that the healthcare professionals are going to play in tangent with AI in order to help them out because of the obscene amount of, I guess, paperwork they have to deal with in a way, in a sense, like they have to deal with so many different things that come up. So hopefully they will have a bit of a reprieve, but there's also I still gonna there's still going to need to be more of them than that exists. But when it comes to knowledge work jobs, that's kind of where my main focus is usually when I talk about jobs. Um, and a lot of people fall into a couple different buckets when it comes to how they think it will impact the job market. The three answers tend to get on the show are the least often they will say, you know, like AI Ageddon, Armageddon. So, you know, everyone's losing their jobs. That's barely anyone says that. The second one is there will be a lot of solopreneurs, like a lot more solopreneurs that are going to really try to hone in on like one skill and get really good at one service that is like very niche. And then there's also a lot of people who tell me they believe there will be slightly leaner teams and a lot of the more rudimentary work will be just AI, and then people can focus on strategy and like more mind heavy tasks that go deeper in their jobs. So I'm curious, out of those three things, I'm assuming it's not number one or a mix of things. What do you think could end up happening in the landscape?
So what's my prediction across people who are knowledge workers who are going to be like the core manager, operator, and they're gonna use AI to do all of the other tasks across the business, but they need the human aspect to, like, manage it, be strategy, be the human
Yep.
part of it. And then there's the solopreneur, um, and the 3rd one was
Well,
what?
I was saying these are the three types of options for what do you think is going to happen in the future because of AI, right?
Oh,
So is it going to be like a lot more solopreneurs? It's going to be jobs are just going to get more deep, but we're going to have less nonsense work, or are we all, you know, on the chopping block from a knowledge work perspective, and we're just waiting for Microsoft to fire us all?
well, the answer, I think, is already in the data. What's happening is we have seen an increase in people, submitting and filing for an LLC, and what that tells us is that exactly what you're saying, people are able to become solopreneurs. The way they're doing that and what's happening in the job market is an emergence of a fractional skill set, and especially as a founder, I experienced this. I need, like, a little bit of different skills as a founder and in this early stage mindset because some days it's about digital marketing, some days it's about um, customer service, and the list could go on of the varying skills that any one business needs. And if you're a solopreneur, you are probably not thinking, oh, I need to hire 5 different full time people, one to handle my marketing, one to handle my ops, one to handle my finances. You need a little bit of all of that. So, what we're seeing for sure is the gig economy, which has already been on the rise. particularly since I'd say some of the ride share and delivery services got started, but even more so now. And what we're seeing with the types of gig jobs is fractional work. So you could be a DoorDash driver part time. You could be a student and you could be a barista, and you're looking for a flexible work that fits your schedule so that you can have other pursuits. And it might be for women, and for my peers, it's family, it's taking care of your kids, it's taking the backseat on a full time capacity because you don't really see your kids if you're on the train in New York City 5 days a week. That's specific to me, but with a with flexibility, you can still you can't have it all, but you can have the balance of being able to stay in your career, be a present and amazing mom, be in the community, have your friends, have your passions, have your hobbies. So we're seeing people adjusting their work style to how they want to live their life. And I always say, and especially when I'm talking to the younger people, like, what is your dream job? And they answer, what is your dream life? And it's usually not staying in that job 24/7 for the rest of their life. And that's very much how I think people can think about, I have to make ends meet. What are the 3 things I need to do? I might really love one, I might really not love one, but it's gonna pay the bills. This is how this is how people are looking at the, like, work and life culture right now. And also the reason one of the things that is contributing to Jobstream's success is that, like, we give solopreneurs a way to monetize. We give them a platform where they can run their own business. And the tool also works for a brand, by the way, or a community or a school. So we've also built the technology to be adaptive and flexible based on where the user is in their career.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense, and I agree with you on the whole 5 days a week, going to the city. I mean, I work from home, so it's very nice, but I could imagine if I was, traveling 5 days a week, it's really difficult in a lot of the circumstances we used to have previously. I know when my dad was younger, I mean, he even had to go out on some Saturdays, like, you have to work. I think in the previous environment, I think you had to work exceptionally hard and be a outstanding performer for a while, and then you got some leeway. Whereas now, I think you could still work obviously hard, um, or you can work more fractionally and be able to be successful in your career and also in personal life at the same time with this new stuff. So for sure.
Totally. I mean, I'm reminded of a boss who 8 years ago, 10 years ago even, you know, one-on-one chats with him, "Hey, Paul, how do I grow here?" And his answer? It's all about FaceTime. First in, last out. Now nobody's at the office, so nobody sees you doing these things. Does that matter? But, and, there's something to that. He now runs AI responsibility at Gemini, and it's a huge job, and I I believe he got that job because he made the right connections, and he was available, he was there, he was a presence and made himself known, and that opportunity is honestly there for anybody to take. Um, but, that's what separates good from great.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and that's fair. What would you say is kind of the message you would have to some of the solopreneurs or small business owners that we're talking to today, and how they should kind of look at this year? Because I did at the beginning of the year, like seeing where I can simplify life, right? I think anyone running their own business is aware of the stressors that come with it, no matter how intentional you think you were at first. Is there any advice that you would give them to get back to that ideal life, or is there any exercise that you do to try to re-examine that for yourself often?
There's so many memes on social media around this right now where it's like the luxury is being offline, and that's totally true, and being present and just, don't take for granted the parts of your life and your job that are because of human charm. And the way that I think about personally operating, or what are the systems, well, also founder mindset here. what are the systems I need to create so that I free up the highest valued part of my time? And for me personally, that means choosing to outsource things like laundry, like deliveries, like driving sometimes, running errands, like, outsource it, because if your time is more valuable either connecting and being with your family than it is to take the weekend to run all your errands, I think that is time and money worth spent, but that's also because that's aligned with my values, and that's not to say it's for like, everybody would choose to do that. A lot of people wanna choose to do their own cooking and laundry and driving, but and I'm not saying I don't do that for the record, but I would rather take that hour and spend it with my kids, you know? Um, and in business, I think it's
Yeah,
is
no, I
it?
think that's
Do
no,
you
I
relate or
relate.
am
No,
I
I
cra
relate. I have a server come and clean the place. Duh. Like if I'm gonna I don't wanna I think there's a level of obviously everyone works for security. Everyone works for maybe family members they're supporting, whether it be kids or parents or whatever it is. Um, but I think there is a level to that of, you then kind of go back and forth between are you gonna spend money on fun stuff? And actually sometimes I think a more fair thing to do is I'm gonna work the same amount. Maybe I don't spend as much money on fun stuff, but I spend some money on cleaning the house, or I know that I'm going to uh, pay for a meal prep service, or I know I'm going to do these things that make life easier. I definitely, yeah, I have had someone come and it's just way easier because when you have that stress over your head, I think the laundry service is one that I haven't tried, but I got in unit. And for me, that's like, it matters on the person, like, and how many you're supporting. It's just me and my laundry. But if you got a bunch of kids, you got stinky kids, and yeah, there's a lot that goes to it, and that same service I pay for offers the laundry, offers the cleaning up of other things, not besides just like a deep clean, whatever it is. So I think for everybody that's a fair suggestion. Like if you don't like doing a chore, okay, well, and you're like, well, obviously, you're growing a business, you want to stay lean or something. Well, I mean, see where you can invest more in yourself to save time using these AI tools, and then like in that money that's saved, like also spend money on something to make you drive yourself less crazy. Because a lot of times it's I got to finish this thing because I also got to do laundry, right? I was like, but I have to work, and it's like I'm really in deep on this, but it's going to stress me out, and it is kind of partially the life that stresses you out more than the work mattering on the context of, your day. Like if you have to do the laundry for the kiddos, right? Like, and you're like, but I really gotta get this done. It's like, well, I know I can figure out ways to automate a lot of my work, but I'm probably just gonna keep getting more work. So at some point you do have to realize the life stuff can be as well. And the same systems approach can work in life too. That's fair.
Absolutely. And in business, it's preserving the human connectivity aspect of whatever it is you do. Whether you're a solopreneur or you have a technology company or a digital product or whatever it is, it's people are buying from if especially as a solopreneur, they're buying from you for your unique skill set, subject matter expertise, point of view, whatever you have it. What we did at our Jobstream is every single person signed an AI policy that we created together with the core founding team. One of the and any vendor we bring on has to sign it as well. And this is just core to our brand because we're all in the human connectivity business. But like we promise if we're going to use AI, we are never going to create an AI human. It's always going to be real users, real people talking about their real world experience. AI and virtual AI people and AI advertising that is there's a lot of noise around that right now. What I think is moving the needle for any kind of brand is consumer trust and does that brand have credibility with their audience? So, it's hard to get that if you're faking
Yeah,
it.
no, totally fair. I think you're onto something there, and the authenticity portion of the world, I hope will remain because I do have some concerns. The main concerns I have with AI is just like LinkedIn's filled with a bunch of people like not really talking about themselves or talking about themselves in a manner that's bloviated through AI's pontification and they don't know the context of the person's life, so it's just making it sound as cool as possible, or as
SEO written as
I
possible.
mean, like, and I actually kind of I yearn for the days where someone was unironically posting a 5 ways uh proposing to my fiance. It taught me about B2B sales. Like I kind of miss that because
Mhm.
like at least they were like at least it was some dude writing it. Because that I know it was stupid, but at least I know it was a person attempting to be interesting. Because now a lot of the times it's just I don't know, like it's formulaic, it's algorithmic. I think I remember like opening up LinkedIn on my dad's iPad when I was like 10 years old, like however long that was ago, like 18 years ago. And you just got it's just a different environment now, filled with not realness.
Mhm.
And we have some stuff that I think is negative
Mhm.
with AI, but I think as long as we try to use it to be as authentic as possible and express ourselves as an authentic as a possible of way, and have that empower our entire team to do that, it'll be best. So that's why I hope out of the options we have more entrepreneurs, and even if we have a bunch of people still working in the main workforce and there still are large companies, they're empowered to use their brain more than their click clack ability, as I say.
Use their brain, use their influence for good. Like, you've got this platform, you have listeners, you have an opportunity, you could be a very powerful source,
I
so,
claim I'm
yeah,
a thought
go ahead.
leader. I don't know what that means. Just kidding. Well, well, with that being said, please plug what you want to plug with Jobstream and everything else you're doing, and we'll uh we'll kind of close the show out.
Well, in the same vein, and thank you so much, Demetri, for having me. I could talk about AI and vibe coding and geeking out on all of the latest features and tools literally all day. Um, it's what I don't really read at bedtime and watch TV anymore. I just I read about new technology and tinker, yes. But I'd say for this conversation, for anybody who is looking to build that solopreneur journey for themselves and they're wondering and they're curious, uh, Jobstream is a wonderful way to get started. It's a product that's designed for influencers and creators already, but so someone who's on a Shopify or an LTK and they're already monetizing their recommendations because they have that trusted audience and, pushing products and hair products and the sneakers they like to wear at their 12-hour shift is all good, but um, one thing culturally happening is the work conversation. There's layoffs happening. People are afraid of AI taking their jobs. So, if you are somebody of influence and have that as a platform and people listening, Jobstream is a wonderful way to be able to help them with the connections that they need and, is also built on that mission. Like the more people you help, the more you can earn as on an income basis. So, I recommend to anybody who is curious about becoming a creator and monetizing their digital presence. It's one way that feels good that you can do it and start earning about $200, $2,000 a week.
Absolutely. Well, with that being said, everyone make sure to go check out everything that Katie is doing on her LinkedIn, and as well, just want to make sure everyone checks out Jobstream. So that is spelled get Jobstream. Yeah,
You
you can
can
get
get
Jobstream. Yes, exactly.
jobstream.com
Get Jobstream.
and get Jobstream, and I can give Dimitri you a link that if you wanna offer your listeners a code and an invitation, they can
Absolutely.
use
Yeah,
that.
that'd be great. So that being said, everyone make sure to go check out her website, or the website getjobstream.com, and also make sure to leave a like on the podcast, a Apple review, a Spotify review, all the different reviews if you care to. And please, like I said, check out everything that Katie's doing. And thank you so much for watching. We appreciate you, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.